Hey guys, Brian Andrew Stevens here, and today I'm going to do a little project I like to call a name in a frame. Really simple. It is exactly what it sounds like. You're going to put your name, carved out of wood, into a frame. So the first thing we're going to do is measure the name. The measurements of the word Stevens in this video are 16 inches tall by 36 wide. We're going to make our shiplap 41 inches by 20 inches high. First step was to measure everything. Second step is going to be to start cutting. So we're going to measure and cut each piece of shiplap. There's going to be 4 pieces. Alright, so first thing I want to show you, this is something I put between each piece of shiplap. This right here is called a T-spacer. These you get at Lowe's. I think I got them for like $6. The package looks like this. It's the 1/8 inch or 3 millimeter. You're going to want to put T-spacers in between each one of the pieces of shiplap. And you want to do this because you want exactly even gap all the way across. So the way I do it, I do 3 of them. In this case, because it wasn't much longer, I put 1 on each end and 1 in the middle for each piece of shiplap. And this way, when you put everything together, it's exactly even. And I make sure that those pieces of wood touch the very top and touch the very bottom, and that the side ones are exactly even with the sides. This way, when you put your frame around it, you've got something to tack it to on all sides. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna use the nail gun. I believe mine is an 18 gauge nail gun. And so I just get little, in this case I used a 1-inch brad. It's plenty to tack it to each piece of trim that I had on the backing. You want it long enough that it's gonna go through that, the first board and get well into the backing, but you don't want it to be so long that it goes all the way through both. So just kind of judge for yourself. I'm gonna tack each one of these pieces of shiplap to those little pieces of backing. And to do that, I'm just gonna get the nail gun and I'm gonna put 3 brads into it. So when you put all 4 of those pieces of shiplap together, you're gonna wanna sand it, but give it a real nice texture. But the next step is gonna be painting. So I used a white paint, and if you don't wanna paint, you don't have to. That's the great thing about these pieces of shiplap that I have, is you don't have to paint. I mean, they're already white, but I mean, it cleans it up. So I used a little bit of white paint that I've been using on some of my walls. And as you do this, it's very important that you get a very small brush, and in those little divots that are between each piece of shiplap, you want to get that tiny detailed brush and go in between as you paint. So I've got a roller and I'm rolling across each piece as I go, and immediately I get that small detail brush and I'll go in between. I'll make sure to dip it in paint, go in between, and as I'm going, I'm rolling and I'm cleaning up those little divots, because if not, you end up with dried clumps in between the shiplap. You don't want that to happen because you're looking for a decorative piece. You want to look good. So after the painting is complete, and this was a pretty quick job, you're gonna want to do 1 to 2 layers of paint depending on how rough those boards look. In my case, I could still see little marks and stuff through the paint, so I ended up doing another layer. So I did about 2 layers of paint, and to be honest, that paint dries really super fast. Next, we're gonna be putting on the trim. There's a couple ways you can do this too. One, you can do 90-degree corners, where every corner meets and you have them at degrees like this, or you can make it flat. And in this case, because I'm once again going for that rustic look, I decided to go flat. So I would highly recommend using gloves for this job, because stain is terrible to get off your fingers. Well, and your clothes for that matter. So be very careful with stain. So what I do is I get one of those sponge brushes, cheap little brushes. They're like $1.50 a piece, if that. And I take all 4 of my pieces and I'm gonna cover them in stain. Lay them down, let them dry, give them time. Now, in this case, I only gave them about 20 minutes a piece because I don't want the sides to be super dark. Stain is something that soaks into the material. And so the longer you let it soak, sometimes the darker it gets. Not always, depends on the kind of wood you're using and stuff like that. But in this case, we're using a light colored pine. If I leave it sitting, if I leave the stain sitting on there too long, it's gonna be a very dark color. So I left it on there for 20 minutes, wiped it off. All you have to do is get a nice scrap towel, an old t-shirt, wipe that stuff off clean. Then I had one side that wasn't fully stained, so I flipped them over, stained the back, let it sit for another 20 minutes and dry. Then cleaned off the stain. Be careful of splinters, because I've got some mean splinters doing this. You're running your hand down that piece of wood, splinter comes out, it's gonna go right into your finger. So next, now that they're stained, now that they're dried, dry them off. I usually would let them sit a good 30 minutes to an hour if you can, if you have time. Let them get plenty dry. Plus, the fumes are really strong, especially with stains. So I'm gonna let those things sit out in the garage for a little while, give them 20, 30 minutes to dry. Now, overall, I'm not a stain expert, but I can tell you, those things are gonna have fumes for probably a few days. So at least for 24 hours, whatever you're building that you put stain on, I will leave it sit down in the garage. But because I'm impatient, I did mine, I let it dry, it felt good, so I brought it in the house. It did have a little bit of a smell, but it worked. Now that you're done staining, all you have to do is attach those 4 pieces of trim to the outside. Now what you're going to do, you want to make sure everything is laying down flat. And I flipped the trim on its side. And so you want something good and secure. You want a good flat place to lay it. I felt like the table that I used was pretty flat, so I just left it where it was. And I put all 4 pieces of trim around the edge. I used the brad nailer that I have and just secured it with those. Now some people use glue. If you prefer to use glue, that's a good thing because it does keep them on there with a good strong hold. However, I didn't use glue in this case, I just used nails. That's completely up to you. Now once it's done, because you have that stain on there, you may want to let it sit for a while and dry. If you're in a good dry climate, it can sit for a couple hours and probably be fine. I live in Texas, a lot of humidity, so I need to let it sit for a good day. All right, so now that your backing is done, your frame is done, we're gonna put the name in it. So get your name, put it in the middle there, and measure it up. Make sure it's gonna sit exactly where you want it. Now, you can put pencil marks in there if you want to measure up where you want everything to be. However, I didn't want to mess this up, so I just took little blocks of scrap wood that I had, put the word where it needed to go. I measured it all up, put it where it needed to go, made sure it looks good, and then I left those blocks there, and I carefully lifted the word up, the Stevens, flipped it over, and put on some glue. And in this case, I dabbed glue all over the back of the word. I just used some wood glue. I'm gonna slowly put it down right where those blocks are marking my spot. And then once it's down, you want something heavy. You want to go one of 2 ways. You want clamps. In my situation, the clamps would have never reached where I need them to reach, so I had no choice. I had to use something heavy. So I'm out in the garage, I got weights. I put the weights down on top of the word, making sure that every portion was as even as possible. And since I don't want to do any damage to the word itself, I put towels over that. So I put towels over the word, and then I put the weights on top of the towels. Now, this glue, if you have 24 hours to wait, let it sit for 24 hours. You want it to give a good, strong bond. So, I let it sit. I believe I let it sit for about 3 hours in my case. When it felt like it was good and strong, I lifted up the weights, removed the towels, and voila, this thing was done. And it looks beautiful. I was happy with this. I looked at it, real happy with the shiplap because of the contrast between the word being black and the background being white. It was a really good transition. It really stood out. So I was happy with it. It was job complete, and now it's time to hang it up on my wall. So I'm gonna take it in the house, put it on the wall, voila, done. Guys, I'm Brian Andrew Stevens again. My company is Weathered Woodworking. So if you like this video, please be sure to click the like button, make sure to subscribe because I'm gonna have lots of videos coming in the future. Guys, I'm Brian Andrew Stevens. If you like what you see today, please like and subscribe this video. It's gonna help me get the word out to other people. Share it if you want to, that would be great. That would help me out tremendously. I need you to like, I need you to subscribe, I need you to send it to your friends in the mail. I want you to put it on your car with a sticker, want you to whisper in your girlfriend's ear if you have to. Make sure to tell your mom about me. So just a heads up, I'm working on my website right now. Pretty soon you'll be able to see all my creative things that I do and even be able to order some of it. And I really hope you guys like what you see. I'm gonna be going through some step-by-step type stuff that you guys can join me, you guys can watch, but only if you're subscribed and only if you like my videos. If you don't like my videos, if you like what you see, give me a thumbs up. If you don't, I don't know what to tell you. And I'm a woodworker, I gotta say stuff like tell you what. And I gotta talk like this, because I'm from Texas. Tell you guys how to build stuff. Will that help? Do I have to say stuff like y'all? You guys want me to, flies, bugs, oh my gosh. See you next time. Thumbs up, like, subscribe, like it, subscribe it. Put it on a postcard, send it to your mom. Love it. Go get some wood. Go start building. Go get your scrap wood. Build what we worked on today. So now the job is complete. You have a beautiful piece of decorative name in a frame. And you can share it with all your friends and they'll be jealous. And they'll want what you have.